Hola, Taboo Breakers. Bienvenidos a Taboo Talk Latina Edition. Yo soy Cynthia.
And I'm Jeanette. And here at Taboo Talks, we keep it real, raw, and rooted in our cultura. This is a space where we shed the silence, speak on the truth our abuelas were told to hide, and celebrate the stories that make us powerful mujeres.
We're here to break cycles, reclaim our voices, and speak lo que nadie quiere decir, because our stories aren't just valid, they're so necessary.
That's right. And today's guest is someone who we've been so excited to sit down with. She's a proud Guatemalan-American, born and raised in LA, a wife and a mother of two, and a voice for the cycle breakers in our comunidad.
Jasmine created her platform to connect with first-gen Latinas navigating life differently from how we were raised, from pushing back on mom guilt to advocating for self-care without shame. Jasmine is here to remind mujeres everywhere that choosing yourself is not selfish, ladies. It is so necessary. Jasmine, welcome to Taboo Talk Latina Edition. We are so honored to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I'm so honored that you guys have me as a guest. Thank you so much for having me.
We're also honored to have you. Thank you for joining us in this conversation that's so needed. Before we dive into today's topic, we'd love to open the floor to you. For anyone just discovering your platform, can you share a bit of your story and how this journey as a first-gen Latina and cycle breaker began for you?
Sure. So I started my Instagram page, The Healing Latina, more as seeking community. I needed to feel in that moment to find like-minded women, Latinas, that just get it. I needed to know that I wasn't crazy in my own thoughts and that I couldn't be the only one that was feeling a certain way about being Latina, but also only using the parts that serve me, like honoring the parts of my culture that serve me and then saying this part of it doesn't really serve me. I wanted to feel that I wasn't the only one in those thoughts and those feelings. And so I created the page to find people. And it kind of evolved into a place where I give my messages out. And I love to hear back from other Latinas where they're like, oh my God, like I needed to hear that today, or I've been feeling like that, or thank you for sharing that. Like that was inspiring. And so it's kind of evolved into more of a movement, I guess. But I'm excited for people to find me so that we can connect, because one of the things I love about my page is that I have met some amazing women who have amazing goals, who maybe also feel like they're not being heard or understood. So yeah.
And I love that because that's what brings Taboo Talks, Latina Edition, right? I feel like we need that platform. We need that comunidad that a lot of us are feeling it, but we're not being loud about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's crazy. Now, I'm intrigued. What was like that first post that you did? Like, because I know a lot of people are thinking about maybe launching their comunidad. They want to be heard, but they're scared of like, what am I going to share? Like, how am I going to build this? What was that first aha moment for you, or like that first post that made you think like, I have something here?
It started on Facebook, actually. So 2017, I was in a dark place, but if you asked me why, I couldn't tell you. I just felt very heavy. And so I started, like ranting just around my house, like, that's it. I'm getting back to me. So my first thing was like hashtag getting back to me. And I remember ditching work on a Friday and I went to the beach and I just went live on Facebook and just started word vomiting all of the feelings that I had been having. And so I kept posting with my little hashtag getting back to me, getting back to me. And then life happened, right? I have two kids and I kind of stopped. And then COVID hit and it got very real very fast. And I started to feel tons of anxiety just about not having an outlet, because I'm home with two small children. My husband's at home. Like everybody became such very intimate with each other very fast because nobody got breaks. We couldn't get out of the house. Creating the Healing Latina for me was really just that. I was a Latina who needed healing. And so when I made that post of like, let me reintroduce myself, that was my first post. It was like I just was putting myself out there in hopes that other Latinas were trying to find healing, and all of our healing journeys are different. So I didn't expect for my journey to look like anyone else's. I was just hoping that it gave other people permission to launch their own healing journey.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That hashtag, I must say, you need a shirt now
Bring
with
it back.
that hashtag.
Yes, I was thinking that too. I'm like, you got to brand that out. Like, that's yours.
Getting back
That's
to me.
beautiful.
Thank you.
This is
Maybe I'll bring
so
it back.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we love what you're doing because you're so open about your healing journey. And like we've said it here so many times, when you show up as yourself and you're vulnerable, that's where the connection happens, right? When you start storytelling and sharing your healing journey, it kind of just, there's this special connection that you make with other people. So I love that. Thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable.
It's so needed. And you're a mom. We're moms. We totally get it because especially so many of us grew up believing that once you have kids, your life stops, right? And we get the definition of the extension of that because we all went through that moment of like myself, I went through a motherhood crisis of like, my identity. I don't know who I am because I had so much happening before that doing that. I'm like, am I just a mom now? Can I do what I used to do? What am I passionate about? So that self-care becomes selfish, right? Of like, I don't have time for me or I shouldn't, but you've really shifted that narrative in such a powerful way. So let's talk about the judgment that comes with Latina moms choosing
Oh
themselves.
man.
What was that first time for you that you realized choosing yourself wasn't making you a bad mom? It was actually making you a better one.
So we'll go back to 2017. That was a big year for me. So I want to start by saying that like that narrative of when you become a mom, I remember family members saying to me, and I'll translate it for our only English speaking viewers. That's it, right? Like when you have kids, that is your responsibility. That's it. And I think for a few years there, I took it to heart. I mean, I remember my son was born with hearing loss, and I remember having to quit my job and stay home with my two kids under two. I was going crazy because I needed adult interaction, I needed adult conversations, and being home in such close quarters with two little ones, like I was going crazy. I'm like, oh, this stay-at-home mom's life is not for me. I respect it. So I think that's where it started for me. And 2017 came around, and my mom had this bucket list thing that she wanted to go to Rome for her 50th birthday. And my dad's birthday was around the corner. And so we were like, let's just go. It's gonna be the three of us and my niece. And we started planning this big trip to Rome. And I would imagine how many Latinas at my job at that time were like, how are you going to leave your kids behind? You're going to leave your husband behind? So it's just you and your parents? Like when you get married, that's your family, your husband and your children. And I'm thinking, so it went from something for like me wanting to celebrate my parents turning 50 and 55 to now I'm really being a terrible mother. Mind you, at this point, I've never really left my kids. So I went home in tears. So I was like, am I a terrible mother? Like me trying to do something fun and exciting, help my parents cross something off their bucket list. And we know our parents came here and they were on survival mode. They never really had time to do anything amazing for themselves. So to me, this was a big deal. And my husband, my best friend, and another really close friend of mine, they all were like, there's 365 days out of the year. If you take 10 days out of that to do something for yourself and your parents, you're on mommy mode the day you leave, you're on mommy mode the day you come back, and you're probably going to call your kids every day.
Yeah.
They're like, how does that
100%.
make you a bad mom? And my husband was like, if I don't care, why do you care what everyone else thinks? That was a very big moment for me because I realized part of our growing up is we do care what people think. In our families, it does matter. ¿Qué va a decir la gente? You know, like what is people gonna say? And it's so embedded in your DNA to be worried about what other people think and that you do exactly what they think you're supposed to do. Like it's so ingrained in us, right? And so I think that was a very big moment for me. I even had someone say call me a madre desnaturalizada, like
My
they
God.
literally called me a denaturalized mother for being able to leave my 3-year-old and my 5.5-year-old with family, with their dad, their grandmother, so that I could celebrate my parents. So that was a very big moment for me. I think I went through a part of a sort of grief in that moment because it was like, oh man, like I've really I haven't been living for myself. I've been living for what my culture says I'm supposed to be living.
Yeah. Oof. That's
Wow,
powerful.
that's crazy.
And it's within us, you know. It's I feel like it's in la cultura of like constantly the reminder because our parents didn't do it or they couldn't do it, right? They didn't know any better. And then now we're leaving our kids with the dad or with the grandma. It's like, oh, tú nunca estás con los niños. And you're like, right? So it's like those little pollitas that hurt,
They
but
do.
but they come from our families, our loved
Yes.
ones that you're like, but I thought you wanted me better. So if I work too much, it's hard. But if I stay at home, then I'm useless. So what do you want from me, right? And I think it's also the society too, especially nowadays, our culture, but also what we see people do and how they portray being a good mom, then we compare ourselves. So it's a lot, you know? So I think that's why it's so powerful what you're doing, because it's a reminder that we're not alone in this journey and we got to pat ourselves in the back more often.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's crazy because these comments come from family members, close friends, right? The ones that are supposed to be cheering you on and saying, yes, go ahead, take that vacation so you can have that self-care, few days off from your kids. And I love that your husband was like, if I don't care, why are you listening to them, right?
It's
But
so true.
because we often hear that in our community, right? When we leave our kids with the dad, right? What's the first thing? Oh my God, ¿vas a dejar los niños con él?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Con él like he's a stranger, like
right, yeah,
whole 50% DNA of his. Like, what do you
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Yeah,
like,
like, can he do a good job?
Yes.
Like,
yeah,
I do a good job.
Yes.
yeah, wow,
I love this one.
yep,
There we go. Oh, if I haven't heard that one in a while, like for us to share it on here, thank you.
Like,
yes,
you're lucky that your husband helps you. And I remember thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, helps me. And this is where like the calladita te ves mejor situation was completely out of the window for me, like my whole life. It's like, what do you mean? I'm supposed to pat him on the back for what he's supposed to be doing? Absolutely not. But I can't get mad, I feel like, at those people because they didn't get the help. Their husbands didn't. The dads were not there to help, And so for me, part of my healing journey too is not realizing that I'm never going to change the past generations. My job is to change the future generation, right? Like to be able to let my daughter know, like, no, your husband's supposed to help you. It's
yep,
not helping. Your husband's supposed to do 50-50 with you, It's so I can't change how my grandmothers or my aunts or anything. And I will give credit to my mom. She's from that generation, but she's been able to accept just how different I am. And she's told me, vos respetar como yo soy, yo respeto como sos vos.
yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. And you're breaking that cycle.
Mhm.
So and then you're setting a standard for your kids, right? Like you said, that your husband's not supposed to help you. That's part of his job, not his job, but like he's the father,
He's
right?
a father, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah. So, okay, how do you handle pushback, right, from your family or friends when they don't agree with how you parent your kids?
I think for the most part, a lot of my friends and family are intrigued. We have this thing that my husband created. I keep giving him credit because he's really amazing. It's called our Dunlap Free Weekends. And Dunlap is my husband's last name. During COVID, I was having a lot of anxiety and I started having panic attacks. And as we know, in our culture, we can't talk about anxiety. We can't talk about mental health issues. And I can remember having anxiety back to when I was 14. And during COVID was the very first time that my mom ever saw me having like a panic attack. And she'd be like, right. And so my husband was like, I don't know what's going on with you. And he like literally went like this in my face. I don't know what's going on here, but you got to go. And at that point, I loved to travel and I was traveling like at least twice a year, but we couldn't do that. So my husband was like, get a hotel room, go by the beach. That's your favorite place in the world. Stay the whole weekend and just come back and see how you feel. And we started establishing that every 3 months. And so every 3 months I would go away for the weekend and the kids would stay with him or his mom or my mom. And when I started talking about that, it started to intrigue so many family members and so many friends. I have, I kid you not, at least 10 women around me who now adopt that. They have now started. I have one friend that's like, how should I bring it up to my husband? And I'm like, oh my God, like I love, right? Because all you got to do is change the last name. So it's your Martinez free weekend or Mira, And so I think me just showing that I'm doing this for myself and what works for my family has eliminated some of the pushback. But of course, I still get some of and so I think for me, understanding that part of their pushback isn't coming from like hate towards me. It's that they haven't unlearned what I have unlearned. And
Mm,
so I just expressed to them, like, well, this is what works for me and my family. Like, my husband would rather me go away for the weekend and come back refreshed than, for me to be like, all the
yeah,
time. Like, he can tell that I need one before I do. He'll tell, like, it's time. My mother-in-law, she's gotten so good at it. She'll be like, when was the last time you went on a Dunlap for a weekend, girl? Because you got to go. So, right. And so I think that being able to just express kindly and lovingly what works for my family, it's okay that it doesn't work for you or for other people.
yeah.
I think that gives them the level of like, well, my opinion doesn't really matter. It doesn't, but I'm also not going to discredit what their belief is. It just doesn't work for me. So part of my journey too has been that there's going to be situations where I just can't make people understand, and that's okay. That's not my ministry, is to make people understand. I think for me, it's more so like, I'm going to show you what works for me. And at this point in my life, in this point in my healing journey, I don't care that it doesn't work for you. But if you want help and you want to help removing that guilt that comes with leaving your children, I got you. Talk to me. But if it just doesn't work for you, then you're not there yet.
And I love that because it's touching on boundaries that is so hard for us to have, or like to be firm, because you going on for the weekend, you think about it and you're like, oh my gosh, that guilt, right? Again, the mom guilt, the husband, the wife guilt. Like we're constantly battling this, but it's setting those boundaries and really like being consistent with them. And thank you for sharing that, because I think we need that reminder that we have to be a little bit more selfish with ourselves, because how are we supposed to better our relationship with our spouse, with
Yep.
our kids, if we're preaching that we need healing, that we need time off, but we're not doing it?
Yep.
And I think that's what we need to create more of being okay with if you need time, because it's the same thing with mental health. People are like, oh, I wish when somebody commits suicide or something happens, it's like, I wish they can speak up, or why didn't they ask for help? It's a
Mm-hmm.
conflict.
Yes.
We wait until it's too late for us to like ask for help. So I admire what you do, and that your husband plays such a big role, because I feel also as women, we don't recognize that in our husband and our spouse. And even though some don't have the opportunity or the blessing, right, to have the right man, the ones that we do, we feel like you see all these reels that we're constantly like bashing them. Oh, the husband is always on his phone. He never helps me. So
Yeah.
we create that among us, that it's true. We can relate. It's very true. But then they are there when we need them,
Mm-hmm.
or they do listen to us when we need them. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing that with us and letting us know how you and your husband rewrite that partnership and that parenting, right? Because if there's any other tips that you can give women out there, it's that, but pouring into each other, which I think it comes hand in hand when you take that time off.
Yeah. And
I also
kudos to
think,
your husband.
thank you.
Yes, because that takes a lot for a guy to be like, hey, you know what? You need break. You need a break. You need, time for
100%.
yourself. Go do either a girls' weekend or just your self-care day. So it takes a lot for someone to recognize that. And he does from the very beginning. So kudos to him. Men, take note.
I think having a hard conversation too, because I think being vulnerable, if you can't be vulnerable with your husband, who can you be vulnerable with, right? And so, like, me being able to say, like, I'm overwhelmed or anxiety. I remember having a conversation with him and saying, I don't need you to fix my anxiety. I just need you to not use it against me. So if you see me having anxiety or panic, or like a panic attack, I don't need you to go up here. I need you to be down here, because you trying to fix it is creating more chaos. Just hold me or hug me or let me cry it out or whatever. Just ask me what I need in that moment, because men, I think, most men are natural fixers, right? Like, they want to make things better. And so I think that might create a little more chaos. So having a hard conversation, being honest with them and allowing them to understand that they can't fix everything, unfortunately, as neither can I. I'm a perfectionist. So me not being able to fix something is like, and so just being able to give him that comfort in knowing that he can't fix this. I just don't need you to use it against me. Like, this doesn't need to be a point of contention if you see me having this. And I think that gave him permission to calm down and be like, oh, okay, this is on her. I can't do anything for her. So what I can do, I will do. But if I can't fix it, then it's not on me. It doesn't make him feel less than because he can't fix this one thing, you know?
Wow. And thank you for sharing that too, because like, as you're talking, I'm in my relationship, I had to do a lot of healing from my previous one because we're toxicas, right? And it's like, 100%. Like, we don't talk about it loud, or we're always
Absolutely.
blaming the guy. But I
Yeah.
also feel that a lot of my past relationship was baggage and weights and stuff that I've carried that wasn't allowing me to fully be open, right? And I had to be like, okay, calladita te ve más bonita, or, he's doing something, or maybe, benefit of the doubt, like talking to yourself. And I've done so much healing that I feel like in this relationship, reflecting on what you're sharing, the communication has been key, but also understanding that guys live in their own world, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we are the only ones talking, and we're like, oh, because he doesn't care and he's working all day. He doesn't listen to me, and I'm doing this and this and this. But then when I actually sit down to talk, he's like, huh? because none of the stuff that I thought about, it's what he's going with. He's just trying to hustle. He's in his own world. So it's like learning of like, this is how he is. And like, how can we make this like, how can we make this better? It's like communicating, hey, this is what I like. This is what you haven't been doing. Can you do more of this? Right. And I feel like that's where we lag because as mujer, we're like, no,
Yeah.
everything we're trending, right? It's like what we see, it's like, oh my gosh, like the flowers, why can't he give me flowers? Why can't and it
Yeah.
goes back to us, like toxicity of mujer of like, no, we deserve better. We have good. We have good at home.
Yeah.
But we're lacking that communication because we are being with our ego, right? So thank you for bringing that up because I think it's so important.
Yeah, 100%. And tell me, where did this wisdom come from, right? Because, I mean, just hearing your story, I just want to know because we didn't grow up, right? The generation from our parents, right? We didn't grow up with seeing them portray that setting boundaries, breaking these cycles. So, where does that wisdom come from?
A lot of work on myself. It's funny, my mom likes to say, desde que tuviste hijos has cambiado tanto. And that's a good thing, right?
A
But
good thing, yeah.
I think because I absolutely tóxica at heart, malcriada at heart, that was me. And my mom always told me, vos sos la única que me sacaste canas. Like, because I have three siblings, I have a sister and two brothers. So I absolutely have had to do lots of work, lots of reading, lots of crying, lots of being honest with myself. I think that was the other one that I had to take accountability in the parts that I was playing in my own non-healing part of my journey. Like, it's something that felt comfortable. I kept going because I didn't know any different. And I just knew that I needed something different because the heaviness that I was feeling, it just didn't feel good. Like, I think that heaviness that we get as mothers, because you said something very important, Jeanette, like you lose your identity. And I think that was a big, big part of that I needed to be different. And because when we know better, we do better. And so in that moment, I didn't know any better and I didn't know what I was feeling. And I couldn't even put words to what I was feeling because the minute that I feel as mothers, Latina mothers and Latina wives, if we express to a mom or a grandmother, like, I'm feeling dark, right? Something doesn't feel right. The first thing that I would get would be like, pero tu esposo tiene un buen trabajo, tus hijos están saludables, ¿qué tenés? ¿Por qué estás así?
I'm loving where it's going.
Yeah, I'm like, you're good.
What I've gone through and what I've learned and what I'm putting in practice for myself. Because I can only talk about what I know. And so I think me being honest with myself and then be able to honest with other people, I think that's where probably what you're feeling, Cynthia, that like I'm honestly just being true to myself and the growth that I've done, the learning that I've done, and being able to say like my mom was different, my grandmother was different, and that doesn't serve me. And so setting boundaries. We don't know. We didn't know what, like, we were
Yeah.
never allowed to set boundaries with their, like, what is a boundary? Like, you don't even learn what a boundary is until like you're in your 30s. At least in our culture, we don't know what that is. And then being the first daughter in a Latino household, you automatically become parentified. So there's a lot of things that you learn way before you should learn them. And I think that once I got older, I understood really what that meant. Like being that parentification in that moment probably felt heavy. And now it's like, oh, I see. This was actually supposed to teach me something. So I think a lot of the wisdom was probably already there and things that I've learned from my mom. I just had to decide what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And
Mm.
thank God that does not work for me. It just doesn't. You said something too, Cynthia, about like you're setting that example for your children. My daughter's 13 years old. And I want her to grow up knowing that it's okay to take a break, that you don't have to do everything by yourself, that if you didn't clean up on a weekend, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
the house is lived in, it's not messy, it's lived in. And so I think just being able to put the things in practice that we learned from our families and say, that just doesn't sit well with me or that's not for me. And being able to verbally express that. I think I'm at an age and stage in my life where if
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm going to take that with me. The house
yes,
is not messy, it's lifting.
Yes.
Because especially with toddlers, right? We're constantly like, and I haven't cleaned and it's been 2 weeks or, and we're so hard on ourselves. And I'm like, let them be kids, and let us be humans. Like, it's okay. Like we carry so much already.
yeah.
So thank you. Oh my gosh. All the wisdom you shared today has been
Oh, thank
beautiful.
you.
Yeah. And I love I just want to go back to your answer where it almost sounds like you're saying, I'm just feeling my emotions, right? which is something often that as Latinas, we had to suppress. And I love when you said, and I cried a lot. Now, if we think about that, right, and we look back at our parents, I don't ever remember seeing my mother cry or my dad cry. So
You're
when you
right.
said that, I was like, wow, you cried a lot. You allowed yourself to feel your emotions and to cry, something that you did not see growing up. None of us
And
did.
allowed to do as a kid either.
Yeah. And if we did, right? So, for example, when you were talking about mental health, if you go up to your mom or grandma and say, I'm not feeling too well today. I remember my mom would be like, so you're bored, ponte a limpiar, because it seems like you're bored.
No jodas más ya. Oye, porque ya que ya hicimos esto. And you're like, okay, never mind.
You get shut down, your emotions are shut down, and you're like, oh, damn, okay. And it kind of plays with your mind, right? Because you're like,
Absolutely.
okay, I guess I'm not depressed. I guess I am bored. Let me go clean.
Yeah.
So I love that you said my wisdom came from just feeling my emotions, crying, and all the healing. And that is a taboo that we as Latinas, as first gen, have to break. We have to be loud about it, and it has to come to a stop for the next generation that we're bringing up.
Can I add something to that, Cynthia? Because I want to share how I processed the not seeing my family crying, because that is something that I processed. Because growing up, I would cry, and I remember my parents. I don't even know what this means, but my parents used to say, "Una Magdalena." I don't know what that means, but I used
Heard of
to,
it.
I've
yeah,
never heard of that.
una Magdalena. I don't even know what a Magdalena is,
I was
but
just going to say, what is a mandalena?
I don't know.
Or no.
Una Magdalena, right? And so immediately it gets shut down, and I had to process that because with my children, like my daughter cries a lot. My daughter has anxiety. And so I'm able to help her through her anxiety because I know what it feels like. My son is 10 and so 11, sorry, he just turned 11, but he's getting older. But as he was younger, he would cry. And so I had to process allowing them to cry because it used to like irritate me. Like, what are you crying for? Right. But I
Yeah.
had to like unlearn that. And so I remember thinking to myself, my parents were on survival mode. My mom was working at 7 years old with her mother. My dad, like, he was able to go to school, but he was also working at 8, 9 years old with his mom. And so I'm like, my parents grew up on survival mode. My parents are from pueblos. They were poor, like they were really they didn't have they were not allowed the privilege to cry at that time if they were feeling any emotions. And then they were on survival mode. And I think up until maybe 10 years ago, they were still on survival mode. So I can't blame them for not knowing or having the tools or the emotional intelligence to be there supporting why I was crying. They didn't have the time to stop and say, why are you crying? What's going on? Why are you, what is it that you're feeling? They didn't have that emotional intelligence to be like, to just get down to my level, right? They were just making sure that I had food on the table, that I had clothes on my back, that we had a roof over our head, because that's what they were taught. And so the way I processed that was like, I can't have any anger towards that. If anything, it gives me more empathy and compassion towards them, because now that they're adults and retired and moved back to Guatemala and living their best life, now they're showing all this emotion. Like, I don't think I've ever seen my mom cry as much as I have in my adult life when I did as a kid. It never happened, right? And it's more so like her being able to finally express herself. And the same with my dad. My dad's been more of a mushy person than my mom growing up, but now it's like my daughter gave him a mug that said greatest grandpa in the world, and he cried, right? So it's like, I think being able to give them just that feeling of like, it's okay. Like, I know you did the best you could with what you had. And so
Yeah.
now, as I know better, I do better. And patience, listen, patience is not something I was born with. It is not my ministry. And so I absolutely have to constantly work on that. And so now, and then so that makes me think about them, and like, they not only did they not have the patience, they didn't have the time. Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I was able to process it, and saying like, I can't hold a grudge against what they didn't have.
Beautiful said. Yeah. And I agree.
Yeah. And we know that you've been so vocal about the impact of colorism in
Yes.
the Latin communities and how that shaped your sense of identity growing up. So, why is it so important for you to keep these conversations going, especially for the next generation?
My husband's Black. I'll start there. And so that was already a huge taboo, right? Like, bringing a Black man into the Latino culture, because I don't know if you guys heard this, but growing up, I remember hearing like tias, and never my mom. I never heard my mom say this to me, but I remember hearing tias and like grandmothers and stuff saying, hay que mejorar la raza, no hay que empeorarla.
Yes.
Like you
Yes.
have to better
Mom
your
used to
race
say that,
and
yeah.
not make it worse. That's the translation. And we can go back on how that came from colonization and how our countries are still like idolizing the people who colonized us. But this is how they were really raised. They truly in their DNA believed that the whiter you are, the more beautiful you are. And I'm super white. Like I'm super light skinned. Like you can see the veins in my arms. Like I've always been very, very, very light skinned. But I think that growing up in America and going to school in LA, where it was predominantly Latinos and Black kids, that just never was something that I felt like was that I believed in. It just didn't feel right to me. And I remember my mom telling me one day, I knew you were going to marry a Black man when you were 7 years old. And I was like, why? She's like, you were watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, or I think it was one of those shows. And I asked you, why are you always watching these Black shows? And that I turned around and yelled at her and said, if you take their skin off, they're all the same. And she's like, I knew then that your ideas were different than anything that we grew up with. But I think that's just me growing up in LA and having best friends that were Black and Latinos and darker skinned Latinos, right? And so fast forward, I marry a Black guy, and I remember being pregnant and I'm visiting in Guatemala for my dad's birthday one year. And I had this older lady ask me, like, are you not worried that your daughter's going to be darker skinned? This is an old, like, she had to be 75, 80 years old, older lady. And I was like, no, I'm not worried about it. You have to give them grace because they don't know any different.
Yeah.
Of course.
They know better. My job is not to change them, is to make the next generation better and to allow our generation to be a little open-minded and think that maybe that isn't okay, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't tolerate colorism talk around my children. My daughter is darker than my son. My son, it took more after me. My daughter is darker and has the beautiful curly hair, like you, Cynthia, just like pretty. And I remember her as a little kid, 3 years old, saying, when am I gonna be daddy's color? I want daddy's color so beautiful. Like, and I used to be like, Mommy, I don't know if you're gonna be daddy's color because you're mixed. And now in the summers, she literally gets almost like my husband's color. So I don't allow any bad talk around like, oh, si está en el sol se va a poner pretilla, or I don't allow that around my kids. Like that's okay if that works for you in your home and your family, but around my family, it doesn't. And I have to give it to my parents. Growing up in that environment, I thought maybe it was going to be a thing. And it really wasn't, especially when my children came around. I think for my dad, it was more of a like culture shock for me to have a Black husband. Not so much the color, but it was more of a culture shock because it's a very different culture.
Yeah.
But as soon as my daughter was born, it was like my dad, it was like mi negra bella, mi negra bella, mi negra bella. And I had to explain it to my Black friends. Like that means dark and lovely. He's not calling her a negra, right?
Right.
Right, that means dark and lovely because my dad embraced it. And so I love that I'm able to open my parents' eyes to a different mentality. And they've been very, very, they receive it, right? And I think it's more so that talks more about their love towards me, more so than what they've learned. They know, like, okay, well, this is how she feels. And even if it's not something I grew up with, I'm gonna respect it because this is how she feels. And I try my best because colorism is not just in the Latino community. It's very big in Black communities too. I won't speak on that because I'm not Black, but um, so my husband and I being able to just set a huge boundary around our family and saying like, yeah, we're a mixed couple and our children are mixed. And in the summer, they're going to be all kind of shades of different caramels. And that's protected in our home. And we don't allow any negative talk around that because we want our children to be proud. They're both, if you ask them, what are you? Oh, I'm Latino and I'm Black. I'm Latina and I'm Black. And so it's important to me because again, we can't change how people think, right? In the past, but the future, the future generations, I want them to know that like colorism should not be a thing. It just shouldn't.
So
Wow.
beautiful.
Thank you.
So beautiful. Because we need to hear that. And not that you're just saying it, but you're actually acting it, you're living it. And that's just beautiful, like the whole perspective. Because as Latinos, we are told about la raza, about you shouldn't marry a Black person. They never gave us a why. It was always like la pollita, like don't do this, don't do that, mejora la raza. And you're just like, but why?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And if you ever had a crush or you like someone, you're like, oh, I don't know, my family's gonna think.
Yeah.
So it's so
Yeah.
important, right? Especially in today's world to recognize that it's okay,
Yep.
and I love how you keep saying we can't blame them.
Yeah.
We can't judge them and we can't take it personal either because unfortunately they don't know any better.
Yeah. It's true. They don't. They didn't.
So
And at
beautiful.
this age, you can't make people change.
No, no, no. And
And
that's not our job to do it, like you said, it's to better our next generation and our current life today, which I think we should leave it like to the fullest, right? Because it's so sad to see how people like turn down opportunities, relationships, friendships, just because of what is my family gonna think.
Absolutely. I have friends who have literally shared those kind of stories, and it's sad, you know.
It is. And you've also challenged the infamous calladita te ve más bonita mindset. You've done one hell of a job, let me tell you, up to now,
Yeah.
because I'm like, everything you said, I'm like, there's nothing calladita about you, which
Mhm.
we admire, right? But we all hear it growing up.
Yeah.
So, what gave you the courage to speak up and reflect on that? I know you've touched on it, but what advice, aside from that, will you give women who are still trying to find their voice?
Man, that's hard. I think that I think it's harder for people who don't feel safe to be loud about something like that, right? I was fortunate enough that because I have a very big personality, and when I was younger, I was a firecracker. I think I didn't care, and I often got the malcriada and, was una malcriada because I always questioned and went against the grain since I was a kid. So I think for someone like me, it's always much easier that, like, why? ¿Por qué? My mom says that I used to go like this, pero ¿por qué? Like with my hands, right? Pero ¿por qué? And I know that that does not come easy to everyone. There's definitely people who have been conditioned to suppress their personalities and are afraid to speak. They were never given the safety to speak. And I think that finding a community that allows you to have that, it's like if you don't have that at home, find your community that will allow you to speak up and to say all your crazy thoughts and your decolonizing thoughts. Like just like find people that allow you a safe circle to be yourself and speak what you really feel, because unfortunately for a lot of us, we weren't able to say certain things at home. We weren't able to, like, I remember, oh my God, I have a perfect example. I remember I was 11 years old. We were at my grandmother's house in Guatemala and she had made caldo de pollo and I was really hungry and I went and, coming from America, you serve yourself. So I went and I got my plate and I sat down and my grandmother came in and she was like, ya te sentaste y tus hermanos no han comido. Like, you didn't serve your brothers, but you're eating? And all I said was in my head, right? Like, well, they have hands if they're hungry.
yeah.
So in that moment, I wasn't trying to be rebellious. I was trying to make it make sense for me. Like, what is she mad about? If they're hungry, they got hands. And I remember my dad coming in because she's like going off on me and all these things. Y vos estás criando una malcriada, que And my dad was like, yo no estoy criando a una sirvienta. And
Oof.
so I have always been allowed a safe space to speak my mind. Don't get me wrong. I got smacked a few times because I was always titter-tattering with the
We all
disrespectful, like,
did, right?
our moms don't play that. Don't talk back. That backhand is vicious.
A chancleta, el cinto.
Yes. Like, yo no soy tu amiga. Boom, right? And because I did. I have a big personality, so I was very malcriada. But I was allowed still the safe space to speak what I didn't think was okay or what didn't feel right. And I know a lot of people don't. So I would encourage you to find that community, because a lot of the times it's not our families. A lot of the times it's friends and people we meet on the internet or mom groups or whatever, or just women groups, right? There's so many solo travelers now that have these groups also that they become friends after doing something by themselves because they find that they have more in common with these people than they do with their own family. So I would encourage them to just find their safety net, their safety group, because unfortunately for us, a lot of people didn't have that in their own families.
And just like we've all done, build it if you don't find it, right? Because I think it's also something that sometimes, right? And I'm sure we can all relate, which is why we created these platforms, is like, I want to feel heard, I want to be
Yes.
seen. And then you're like, I can't find it. Well, let's go, let's build it because the
Yeah.
more the merrier, right? There's no competition. So that was
I
beautiful.
love
Love
that.
it.
Yeah. And what's one taboo that you are still trying to break or that you've broken recently?
As the oldest daughter, saying no. Saying no is something that brings me major anxiety because I've always been that person that, like, if I sense any tension between my siblings or my parents, like I feel like I need to fix it because it doesn't make me feel good. Or if somebody needs something, I get, it's like, hey, Jazz, can you do this? Hey, Jazz, can you do that? Saying no to something. I remember the very first time I said no to my little brother, I was 34 years old, 40. And it was literally, but it's me. I was never conditioned that it's okay to say no to your family about anything, right? We don't set those boundaries. Like I said, we don't know what boundaries are. And I remember him asking me something simple like, hey, do you think you could pick something up for me in Dana Point? And I looked it up and it was 2 hours both ways. And it took me 45 minutes to text him back and say no. And I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna be mad at me. He's gonna be in his feelings. And then he's just like, okay, no problem. I Because of the way I've been conditioned, it's that you're the oldest. Well, I have an older brother, but there's different standards for men and women. So, but it's like, I'm the oldest daughter, so it's like I can't say no ever. Just giving myself permission to say no. I haven't broken that yet. I think I've gotten better, but it's still a point of contention for me that I hope to break through. And don't get me wrong, my mom has been such a big advocate for me in all of the changes that I've wanted to make. And she'll tell them like, hey guys, you know what? Like she was able to tell my family, like, you know what? She has anxiety. Unless it's something emergency, like don't put everything on her anymore. But I had to have that conversation with my mom. That's like, mom, I can't be everything for you guys and be everything for my family. I can't. It's too much to carry. And if I can't and I say no, like please don't take it personally. It's just in that moment I can't carry it. And my mom was just like, okay. Like the family you're building comes before us. Like I don't know if you don't know that. And I didn't know that because we are not taught that our families that we create come before our parents or before our siblings. And for my mom to allow me that permission and say that it's okay, and then me taking the very small steps to say no to certain things, I have not broken through it, but I feel like I'm making great strides. And yeah, so I think that's my taboo.
Yes, you
And
are.
you are. And we get in our heads, right? Because you said no to your brother. It took you 45 minutes to reply to him. I could just imagine the
Yes.
scenario that you were
Yes.
playing in your head.
Hmm.
You said no, and he was like, okay, no
Yes.
problem. He
Yes.
wasn't mad at you or anything, but we just get in our heads because of the conditioning, right? That we were raised in this household where we saw our parents hustle and bustle, right? And they
Yes.
were so focused, they never said no. So it's that conditioning.
Mhm.
So I am sure you're doing an amazing job at
Thank you.
saying no.
Yes. And that the reminder that it's a working process, right? That I feel like it's not something that we overcome over day. Like it takes us a long time. And even now, like even when you feel like, okay, I got it, we don't because we still have to think about it and take a little bit longer to respond to certain people. Or
Yes.
how are we going to turn down this opportunity, right? Because our mental health. So I
Mhm.
think it's so important to remind us that it's okay, even if you're not good at it, even if you say no and then you have to say yes on the next one and then no again, right? It's something that we got to work on and that we're all going through it, regardless of the platforms we build, the communities we're in. Like, we're humans and nuestra cultura, it's ingrained in us. Like, it's a
Yes.
lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, thank you for sharing that. And okay, time for a mini fun segment.
Gosh.
Before we
Okay.
get into the chisme, we're going to hit you with a quick and fun lightning round. Your go to cafecito order.
Vanilla sweet cream cold brew with strawberry foam.
Ooh, strawberry foam. I was going to say, where can I get strawberry foam?
I know, I've never heard of it.
Starbucks. They have
Okay, I'm gonna
strawberry
take
foam.
notes for later. Okay, would you say you are malcriada or misunderstood?
Misunderstood. 100%. It just comes off malcriada-ish.
I love that ish. Okay. And lastly, one thing you wish more Latinas were normalized.
I'm gonna go back to crying. I
Yes.
got really good about crying in the shower growing up and then just saying that shampoo got in my eyes. I just had to find ways to cry. And I want people to know that crying is not a sign of weakness, which is what I was taught, that crying is a sign of weakness. Crying is a sign of cleansing. And so I would love for Latinas to normalize that it's okay to cleanse. If that in that moment, if you're mad, happy, sad, frustrated, you're trying not to kill somebody, it's okay to cry and let it out because it will make you feel better. It does not show a sign of weakness. So I would love for Latinas to normalize crying.
That was beautiful. That's a reminder I'm sure we all needed today.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, Jasmine, it wouldn't be a Taboo Talks episode with our Tia Chismosa segment. Tia Chismosa, la que siempre tiene algo que decir at the family gathering, right? We already know tu novio no es blanco O qué malcriada eres. If she could see you now as a mom, wife, and vocal advocate for other women, ¿qué tú crees que diría?
I think she would say, I think it wouldn't be a real tia if it wasn't a double-edged sword. So she would probably say she's proud of me and how my family's beautiful and that I've grown up to do well for myself. Chiste gorda. I think it would be both. I think they would have to, because they won't walk away satisfied unless they give you something. Because I was like a stick growing up, and after kids, I just like, gained weight. So I think she would be like, I think that would be what I would get.
It's like they have to, right? And it's always something about our weight, our
Yes.
look, our hair. Like
Yes.
I love, I love that because it's vulnerable. It's so
Yes,
real
it's
and so
true.
tia chismosa.
Yes. Oh my God. I love that. And of course, please let our listeners know where they can find you, how they can connect with you, and do you have any special projects coming up or events?
So, the Healing Latina on my Instagram page, we will link it once it's posted. And for me, I am in the process of writing a book, and the book is, yes, I just started. Well, it's been an ongoing idea, and I'll share very briefly. The basis of what I want my book to be about is called The Perfect Hija, because we don't grow in environments where it's okay to make mistakes. And so having to grow up and be this perfect daughter and having to unlearn that as an adult. And then also just what I want the message to be in my book is that my mother's generation was of survival. My generation is of healing. So my daughter's generation can thrive. And so I'm really hoping that I can complete that project soon and that I can, offer it to the world and allow one person. If one person reads it and it helps them heal, then I did my job. I don't have any events coming up, but I do have a couple more podcasts that I've been invited to be part of. And I'm really excited about that because I love just talking about these topics, like telling moms, like, hey, listen, that little feeling that you have when you leave, it's okay to feel it. It makes you a good mom to take care of yourself and come back refreshed. And it's allowed my children to know, like, oh, mommy needs a break. It's okay that mommy needs a break because she's going to come back and she's going to be happy. So, yep.
Well, congratulations on the
Yeah.
book because
Yeah.
that's something that I have yet to hear anyone working on. I think it's so important as a reminder, but also not to continue to blame our parents because, oh, we're like this because this is how I grew up. I'm like this because that's what I've been taught. Okay, maybe that's the situation, but how we're going to break it so we can heal and thrive in our next generation.
Yes.
So it's going to be such a success. For sure, you have us as buyers. So you're already going to have two readers. And of course, we'll add everything to the show notes. And when you do launch it or any new upcoming opportunities that come your way, feel free to share with us, tag us.
Thank
You
you.
know, we're big on community and collaboration. I think it's important. The more Latinas come together, the more
Yeah.
powerful we'll be. So,
Yeah.
again, Jasmine, thank you so much for reaching out, for wanting to be a voice, for sharing your truth, and for reminding us that we don't need to fit in anyone else's version of motherhood, parenting, or self love to be powerful. We already are. We see you, we hear you, and we're so grateful for your voice.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for joining and for just sharing your voice with our community. It truly means the world to us. And of course, to our taboo breakers, thank you for showing up and owning your story. Whether you're in between, figuring it out, or stepping into something new, your identity is so valid and your voice matters. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Y como siempre, chicas, we'll see you next time on Taboo Talk Latina Edition, where we keep breaking cycles, breaking silence, and breaking taboos.